Ray Rancy, a grandmother who, after a busy life, decided to go to university. She has an inquiring mind, you see. And as she told us back then, that's exactly what got her into trouble there. She decided to study the politics of Indigenous Australia at Melbourne's Latrobe University, and was soon threatened with dismissal for asking too many questions. Questions a Conservative would ask. Ray had asked me back then not to identify the professor so much, but I did listen to some of the online lectures that she gave. This professor who identifies as Aboriginal, I was stunned. For instance, she told her students Australia is a, shithole country, that white people think they are the most superior race on the planet, that all of us, balked at the thought of Peter Dutton as Prime Minister. And they were terrible questions that she also asked. Ray Rancy then asked this professor, for instance, when this professor complained that too many Aboriginal children were in detention, Ray Rancy asked, "You don't think it's because the parents don't look after them?" And when she was told about the so-called stolen generation, she replied, "Well, I don't think they're stolen anymore. I think they get taken away from harmful situations. It's the government's responsibility to do it," which happens to be exactly, I think, the truth. Well, since Ray told us all about this, it's got a little bit uglier. And it's not just the abuse of me from this professor who instructed the class that I am a racist and no good at all.
Yeah, no. Andrew Bolt's a real bad apple.
Ray Rancy joins me now. Ray, good to see you again. What happened in your final class?
I've been banned from classes. I had to listen online to the recording, and I was shocked and actually to be the subject of a 9-minute humiliating tirade from the lecturer, calling me a difficult student, that person. I was making her go crazy. I was a real life example of racism and disrespectful behaviour. She encourages speech in her workshops, but not my type of speech. And the kids were all, the students were encouraged to agree with her assessment. One of the students even said, "It's been great that we had an example from you of how to resolve these kind of issues, which is call security and stop any discussion."
Ray, this is just astonishing, but apparently she said something about wanting to call security. I didn't get the entire context. You heard it more clearly than me. What did you hear her say?
Well, she was a bit afraid of calling security because she wasn't sure if they were culturally aware enough. They might actually like Andrew Bolt's opinions. She mentioned you specifically.
Well, we can't that.
No, and.
That of course puts them completely, outside the pale. Makes me wonder whether she's classist about things too. But Ray, I couldn't help but, be taken aback by your first comment. When we last talked to you, they said that you could not come back in the classrooms unless you sat through some sort of indoctrination course to re-educate yourself, change your thinking. I take it that wasn't successful, given that you have to sit outside the class.
Well, I spoke to a few people and they said, "Come on, mate, just do it. It'll be a bit of fun." So I haven't yet done it, but I applied to do it about 6 weeks ago and heard crickets.
Oh, well, maybe they didn't want you in the class whether you're being re-educated or not. The whole thing is so bizarre, but Ray Rancy, radical Ray Rancy, it seems, you've now been summoned to another disciplinary meeting at Latrobe University. Now what? What's this about?
Well, the course had finished, it had been finalised. I got a nice healthy B, so I was pretty happy with that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I thought, well, it might be safe now to wish my professor a Merry Christmas with an email, plus send her a clip of Jacinta Price encouraging her to look at both sides of the argument, whatever it is. I've been told that that was very intimidating, and I'm in line for another disciplinary process.
What, so Senator Jacinta Price's views are very intimidating. Okay, I got that. Now, Ray, what you've gone through just staggers me. Now, in one sense, your age, and you're a young woman, of course, but your experience, etc., being a grandmother, a mother, and all that, it's giving you a certain, ability to think for yourself and stand up for yourself. I feel sorry for the younger students who do not have your life experience.
Exactly.
Did you feel that they were having to sit through things that they didn't dare protest against?
Well, perhaps not so much in this class. She certainly had them on her wrapped around her little finger. But I have noticed it in other classes when people have come up and said, "Thank you for mentioning that. I was always too nervous about it." My husband's had that happen to him, being told by a couple of students, "You're the most sensible voice in the room," because he's a conservative, obviously, as well. They're silent voices. They're silent because they're nervous and intimidated.
Well, given what happened to you in that last lecture of the year, I would have thought the students have every right to be nervous. Who wants to be the subject of a pack attack? What are you going to do about all this?
Well, I've already been to 3 disciplinary courts, hearings. I had an appeal last week about doing the re-education course, even though I had applied for it. I've heard nothing. I applied to the Students' Conduct Complaints Department in July. Coincidentally, I got a letter from them, an email today saying that they're looking into it and they hope to get to it in a timely fashion. Now, that was back in July.
Yeah. Are you going to take this to the Human Rights and Equal Opportunity Tribunal or anything like that?
It has been suggested by a friend of mine who is a lawyer.
Well, being mysterious, let us see what happens with that. Ray, congratulations on your B. Congratulations even more so on at least not taking this indoctrination lying down. I really appreciate your time, Ray Rancy. Thank you very much.
We've got a future generation to save.
Good on you. You're doing your bit for sure. Good on you.
Thanks.
Now, after the break, I need to say something about my colleague, Chris Smith.